So we've started this study about what it looks like to have true joy and happiness. A happiness that isn't just swept away when circumstances come our way, but that's deep rooted within our soul. And last week we looked at chapter 1 of Philippians, and we looked at how putting others first is so important. And in this session I wanted to take this a step further and look at chapter 2. I think one of the biggest problems with us as humans, and maybe one of the root causes of every sin I can think of, is selfishness. We do so many things that are because we want to please our own wishes and wants and desires. And I think this is where chapter 2 comes in and is so important. You know, I realize that a lot of us, we do put others first. But we put limits and boundaries on it. We do it when it's easy, comfortable, and convenient for us. But I don't think that's what the Bible talks about, and that's not how Jesus lived his life. In fact, in chapter 2 of verse 3, it says, "Do nothing out of selfish ambition or vain conceit, rather in humility value others better than yourself." And then it goes and it gives 4 examples of people who valued others better than themselves. And the first one is the most hard-hitting, because it says, "Have this mind in you, which was also in Christ Jesus." Jesus, he left heaven and came to the earth. He came to the earth as a servant, as a slave, born in a feeding trough. He died a humiliating death on the cross, and he did it all to put others first. He wasn't worried about his comforts. He wasn't trying to put limitations or boundaries on what it took to put others first. But he was willing to give everything and give of himself so that he could put others first and look out for their needs before his own. And he goes on and it talks about how Paul, he was being poured out as a drink offering. He gives examples of Timothy and Epaphroditus and how they were willing to give of themselves so much. And so over and over and over again in this chapter, it wants to hit home this idea that we have to be willing to put others first and not put limits on it, but be willing to give of ourselves. You see, I think we have this idea that so many times that if we have to give something up, then it's a sign of weakness. Or if we don't need to do something hard because the Christian life is supposed to be easy. But the thing is I think we see in the example of Jesus that sometimes following God means it can be difficult. But the thing is just because something is difficult doesn't mean it's bad. And I think that's where we have to change our thinking some. I can think of some of the best, most greatest memories I've ever made has been in times where things have been difficult and hard. I've gone on camping trips and we go climb mountains out in Colorado, and it's difficult and hard and we're sweating and tired. But we make some of the best memories from those things. And I believe when we truly give of ourselves and we don't put limits on it and we put others first and serve other people, it brings us a joy and a happiness in our life that we can't get anywhere else. And the Bible speaks to this right here. It says in verse 9, talking about Jesus, it says, "Therefore God exalted him to the highest place and gave him the name that's above every name." You see, even though Jesus humbled himself, God exalted him. And the Bible talks the same thing about us. It says that Jesus was the first fruits of what we're going to receive. And if we follow God and follow Jesus, then we're also going to be lifted up and exalted and get to be with him. The Bible continues on in verse 15. It says, "Do this so that you can be blameless and harmless, children of God." And man, if we can just get a hold of what it looks like and what it means, the significance to be called a child of God, that'll just give us a peace and a joy in our life that the world just can't touch. And then in verse 18 it says, so you too should be glad and rejoice with me. Even though I'm being poured out as a drink offering, even though I'm suffering, even though you need to put others first, be glad. Because it's the best type of life you can live.